Hello everybody, and welcome back to another plant spotlight. My name is Liam, and I'm very excited to show you today's plant. In front of me here, I do have one of my absolute favorite plants. I got this guy in May or April. We'll go through some pictures. I actually have some pictures for it today. But this is the Monstera Thai Constellation, one of the aroids in the aroid family. This guy grows some very large fenestrated leaves. It's a very popular houseplant, not the Thai Constellation, but just the normal Monstera. I do have one actually behind me back there. What makes the Monstera Thai Constellation so special to me and to everybody else is this beautiful creamy variegation that the leaves get. It's sort of this splotched, splottled variegation throughout. I'll hold it up here a little bit so you can see it. Excuse my shaky hand here. Since the Monstera is a aroid, this is a climbing plant, so in nature this guy would climb along the forest floor till it reached a tree, in which it would start to climb up the tree, anchoring into the tree and around the tree for support as it slowly climbs up to higher, better light conditions. As it continues to climb, the leaf size will continue to increase, as well as the fenestrations, which is when you find little holes or slits in the leaves that allows light and air to pass through to the lower canopy. So as the plant continues to climb, those leaves will get larger and those holes will get bigger and bigger, and the leaves will continue to get more and more gorgeous. However, this plant is very, very far away from being at that stage. This guy is still in his juvenile stage. He only has 4 leaves currently, pushing out a brand new leaf right now. But we're going to take a look at the past that I've had with this guy and some plans for the future today. So the first picture I have of this guy was on April 28th. I believe that's when I received it in the mail. It was just bare root. It had just one single root. I'll put up that picture so you guys can see. But it was very, very small. It had 2 leaves. They were very curled in. There was not a whole lot of variegation, but I know that the Monstera Thai Constellation is one of the few variegated plants that has stable variegation. This means no matter how much light you give it, it's not going to completely go white and it's not going to completely revert back to green, which makes it another amazing variegated plant. So what I did when I received the plant was I washed the roots off just a little bit under some water, kind of cleaned them up a little bit, and I didn't really know a whole lot about water propagation at the time, so I just immediately planted that just one singular root with the leaves into this sized pot here. It's actually still in the same pot. I planted it into this pot with some sort of, we could call it aroid mix. It was some of my beginner soil mixes, like I was saying in my first video, so I have improved a lot over the time. Fast forward to May 15th, and my Thai Constellation put out this little leaf here, which is slowly on its way out now, but in May it just put out its first leaf with a very nice little bit of white variegation on it. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but the picture that I insert will have a little bit better shot of that, but it had some nice big little patch of white, and I was super excited. That was the first leaf that it pushed out since I got it, so I knew that obviously it was growing, obviously it liked the soil, and since this was one of my bigger plant purchases early on in my plant journey, I was very, very scared to kill this guy. I had heard all the stories about rot, and so growth was pretty consistent. By July 1st, it put out its really first beautiful leaf that I could recognize. It was this leaf over here. I'll hold it up a little bit so you guys can see. But the leaf had a nice bit of just sort of splotched variegation throughout. Had some nice white speckles throughout the leaf, and it just had a nice shape. It was increasing in leaf size. It was very full and plump. I don't know, it looked so nice. It was very exciting for me to see this growth. And then moving on to August 11th is when I first took a picture of this leaf here. So within that first week or two of August, it slowly pushed out its largest, most variegated leaf so far. What an absolute beauty this guy is. Once I saw this leaf, I was like, this plant is only going to continue getting better and better. The plant was growing really, really strong at this point. I had no issues of this rot that people were claiming. I was very delicate with watering. We'll get into that a little bit after the journey. But it was positioned under my grow light directly behind me, and as the season sort of shifted from summer to fall, the sun was really coming in through that window really strong in the morning. And over the last like 2-3 weeks, I did start to notice a little bit of what I believe, if you can look at this variegation here, but on the left side of the plant, it might be the right, but you can see there's a side that's just a little bit more faded, muted. It looks a little sad color-wise. So I think that it just was getting a little bit too much sun along with 12 hours of grow lights. It was really, really pressed under the light. So I decided that was probably too much light. And so I've been easing it back. I moved it from over there across the room with a lot of my other variegated aeroids, and it seems to be doing okay over there. It's only been there for about a week, so it's hard to really notice anything, but the light is definitely a lot less intense over there. And since this plant does have very stable variegation, I'm not really worried about it reverting or anything, so I'm going to watch it over there for a little bit and see how it does. But most recently, within the past couple weeks, I did notice this newest leaf unfurling here. It does not have a whole lot of variegation on it from what I can tell from what's unfurled so far. I'm peeking under the leaf to see if I can see any surprises, any nice white surprises. And it's a little speckled, but it's nothing too crazy. But it is very large, which is the biggest thing for me. It's nice to continue seeing this plant maturing. So I was very excited to see a brand new leaf coming out, and I cannot wait for it to fully unfurl. I'm hoping it'll hit probably like this size. That a lot of leaves will increase about 1 to 2x once they unfurl and just expand and inflate over the next like week or two. When I noticed that sun burning on the plant about a week or two ago before I moved it over across the room, that's when I decided to get it into some fresh new media. So I did actually replant this along with several other aeroids that had been in older sort of early Liam learning media into very nice, chunky, airy mix. So currently this guy is in 1 part pumice, 1 part perlite, 1 part orchid bark, 1 part cocoa chips, a little bit like a handful of cocoa peat, a handful of charcoal, and a handful of leca, as well as just a little bit of bonsai jack gritty mix in there. I like those like reddish little stones that they have. It gives a nice little look to the pot. So it's in a pretty nice aerated mix right now, and it has been having no issues since. All the leaves, when I squish them like this, just the little, call it the little taco test, see how the leaves are feeling? They're all very, very firm and nice. All the stems feel incredibly strengthy, that's not a word. They have a lot of strength in the stems, which is great to see. So it's obviously liking this new soil mix and did not suffer at all from repotting. Which leads me onto a slight tangent, something I've been learning about, but don't want to say for sure this is black and white, yes or no. But a lot of people say that replanting plants and unrooting them and looking at the roots and changing the pot is detrimental to the plant, that you're putting it into some crazy amount of shock. And yeah, you're obviously shocking the plant by taking it out, looking at the roots, cleaning the roots, like messing around with the plant. But if you're moving it from poor conditions to amazing conditions, that little bit of shock is always going to be worth it. The plant will be so much happier in fresh soil. So if anybody's telling you you need to wait 6 months, you need to wait 4 months, 2 months, a year to replant plants, that's not true. Maybe depending on where they're coming from, if they're in great soil, obviously there's no need to just like take them out every week and look at them and see if they're okay. But I mean, if you see something that's going wrong, or you think something might be going wrong, or you just want to like revamp the soil with as you continue to learn and grow, like I think that's totally fine to do. I mean, all my plants that I did a ton of like pretty expensive aeroids, and they've all done amazing since I moved them into nicer soil. They seem to be much happier than they were. So that's just a little tangent. People are always in forums on Reddit. I'm always seeing people like, don't replant for 2, 3, 4 months after you get the plant. And it's like, it depends. I mean, if it's in really poor quality soil, obviously getting it into better conditions is going to be good for it. I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about. When it comes to watering this guy, we did talk about soil, so I won't really talk about that anymore. But watering, this guy does not need much water. Monsteras in general do like to dry out a bit in between waterings, but this guy especially, in order to shave off any chances of rot, anything like that, I wait until I notice physical signs of dehydration in the plant. So maybe the leaves are feeling a little bit droopy, maybe they're physically droopy. Feel the stems. If the stems are feeling a little like bendy and like flimsy, then you know it's time to give it some water. But for the most part, this plant enjoys drying out in between waterings, and it seems to really like the oxygen getting to the roots and just some time to chill before the next watering. So we did kind of cover lighting conditions a little bit earlier on when I was giving my story of this guy, but he was under grow lights for all of these leaves that have come out. They've all been under 12 hours of grow lights. Just moving forward from now, we'll see how the growth does. We'll see how the variegation looks. It'll be getting probably 2 to 3 hours of sunlight coming through the window in the afternoon. It does get a lot of bright indirect light throughout the day, but it's not going to be getting too much sun. And since we're moving into the winter months, especially here in Chicago, it is cloudy all the time, and the plants are really not seeing much sun at all, just sort of indirect light throughout the day. So I'm not expecting a whole lot for the winter with this guy, and I know I probably shouldn't have repotted it this close to winter, but again, those repotting things are just kind of miss, I think. If you're getting the plant into better conditions, it's always going to benefit the plant. But I'm really excited for this guy's growth. I do not know if I'm for sure going to put it on a moss pole yet. I would like to put it on a moss pole, but I am noticing a lot of the growth is very compact. There's not a lot of internodal spacing between the growth points, so there's really not a whole lot of need to put it on a moss pole right now. That would just be increasing my chances of rot because I have to water the moss pole constantly to keep it moist constantly. So every couple days I'll be watering the moss pole, which I'm sure a little bit will be leaking into the substrate, which is fine. I mean, that most of my plants on moss poles don't really care. They come from rainforests where there is rain a lot of the time and wet substrate a lot of the time, but that's when getting your materials in the substrate matters so much. Even though there's water in the substrate, it's so airy and fluffy that it allows oxygen to still reach those roots, and it allows the plant or the medium to dry out quickly. So we covered it all, I think. Don't want to just start repeating myself with a bunch of stuff. I'm excited to see how this guy turns out in the next year or so. We'll kind of decide together if we're going to put him on a moss pole, but I think for now I'm just going to let him climb across the pot, and he's still got a ways to go. He is very small. So yeah, I think that is about it for the Thai Constellation. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to let me know if there's any suggestions you have, improvements. Maybe there's a certain plant you'd like to see next. I do have a lot of exciting ones to show you guys. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Take care of those plants this week. Make sure they're getting enough sun, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.